said I couldn't look at it yet?
Oh.
I couldn't see without my glasses anyway.
Yes. Good.
I have 1 hour, 19 minutes on my battery.
You what?
I have 1 hour, 19 minutes on my battery.
He'll have to share with me otherwise, then, so. Just, maybe you should turn it off for the agenda.
I'd like to call this meeting of the Ledyard Town Council to order. Would you please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roxanne, would you call the roll?
Mr. Allen?
Here.
Mrs. Davis?
Here.
Mr. Dombrowski?
Here.
Mr. Eichel?
Yes.
Mr. France?
Here.
Mr. Marshall? Mrs. McGrattan? Here. Mr. Soms?
Here.
Mrs. Wadecki?
Here.
8 here, 1 absent.
Thank you. At this time, are there any residents and property owners who would like to speak before the Town Council?
Larry Elfridge, 26 Cliff Road, Stonegate, at least we think it's Stonegate Village. And I'd like to take a few minutes of your time, and I'll try to make it as brief as possible.
Thank you.
First of all, I'd like to hand out things that may not make sense right now, but they will as I go along.
Just give me here, we'll pass it for you.
Thank you very
Okay?
What it is, the developer, Third Garden Park, or Garden Homes, wanted to eliminate the age restriction. And they made a very generous offer that would come up to over $30,000 a year once they sold the 80 homes. And they were turned down. So this letter is saying what they would need in order to get rid of the age restriction. It's very easy. They need approval of all residents and the town. Well, that didn't satisfy them, so they went and instituted a suit last year, and the zoning board made them hold to the age restriction. Now, as a result of that, they went around, and pardon the expression, like a bunch of spoiled brats, and said, okay, we're going to sue now. In the last year and a half to 2 years, they made no attempt to sell homes. I'd like to put these around. Okay. Oh, it slipped the, I hadn't saved it correctly. My stapler isn't working. Just like when you get old, you don't work as well as when you're young. At any rate, I may have taken one of the larger ads for a 55-plus community, but it's the competitor of Stonegate Village. Now, you notice the ad that Stonegate Village has put in, that tiny little ad, it's the only ad that's appeared in the newspapers. And even so, they eliminated the 55-plus age restriction in that. Now, the next page is what they have to declare the owner, and in that underlined 2 lines, it says that if sales don't go right, they will eliminate the 55-plus age restriction. So that in itself doesn't help. Then when you get to the village, this is what, I've only made 1 copy, this is what the place looks like. In addition, there's no model home, and they even violated our lease by bringing in a home that was everybody, I meant without exception, everybody hates it, should not be in here. It's a 312 pitch. It's a cheesy home. Everyone calls it, quote, crappy. I just brought that in to tell you what you're up against. No matter what we do, what we do to please them, they're still going to come back. And if their homes don't sell, rest assured, they're going to come back and ask for the elimination of age restriction. If anybody's interested in looking forward at their record, here are some websites of some of the suits they have in town, in the various towns, Fairfield, Oxford, and so forth. It seems that their only goal is that they don't get their way, they're going to sue. Now, in addition, my learned counsel, Mike Sherry, quoted in the paper saying, it seems that this accepting the proposal seems to meet everybody's approval. 25 people signed individual petitions objecting to the proposal. I'm not sending the 25, but it's a copy of the petition of which 25 have signed. We would have had more, except one resident who actually works for Garden Homes, the village owner, went around telling people that if they sign it, it might delay construction by a couple of years. What I really object to, I know legally we had no voice in this, but morally we should have had a voice in this. And for those sitting on the dais, you're much too young to remember what I remembered back in the 30s. In September 1938, Prime Minister Chamberlain of Great Britain met with Adolf Hitler, and they reached a compromise. It was really an appeasement. It had in effect that Germany annexed part of Czechoslovakia without anyone's approval. They had the might, and although this is not as grievous, it's similar. I was told we have to compromise. We had no chance to compromise. It was the town giving to Garden Homes something that we feel was no right to give. There was no meeting of the residents, no concerns, and we could not legally voice our opinions. And I'm not going to make any more comments on this, except the only purpose is to bring you up to date, and that's what I've always done before this council. So that's our feeling, but you are dealing with a rather irrational company who tends to sue if they don't get their way. And this is probably the first town that caved in. The others are fighting. So I thank you for your time. Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hilford. We always appreciate your giving us an update. And Mr. Cherry will be speaking further on in the meeting.
I'll say, excuse me, I'm not going to stay. I'll see Mr. Cherry tomorrow.
Okay. I'm sure you will. Thank you. At this time, we have a very pleasant portion of the meeting, a proclamation from for a former state representative, Tom Reynolds, and I would like to invite him to come up. And also at this time to invite State Representative Tim Bowles to come up. And State Senator Kathy Austin, would you like to come up and stand in the back? So
I'll stand in the back and witness. I just want to say congratulations.
Senators aren't allowed to be shot.
Exactly.
Right here, please. Very good. Be it known, the town of Ledyard recognizes Tom Reynolds. Be it resolved that the town council, on behalf of all the citizens of Ledyard, hereby expresses its deep appreciation to Thomas Reynolds for his years of service in the Connecticut General Assembly. It is recognized and applauded that he represented his fellow townspeople with fairness and good character from January 2005 to January 2013. During this time, he was able to effect a change in the formula of the Mohegan Pequot Fund so that more money flowed to the casino host communities. He also led the fight to bring more education funds to small towns and to provide more state support for special education. He joined other regional leaders in actions which helped to prevent the submarine base from closing. He was a leading advocate for legislation combating drunk driving and domestic violence. He led the Connecticut Task Force on Adoption and Foster Care. He spoke out strongly for responsible state budgeting, even at the risk of offending his own party leaders. Through these actions and many others, he demonstrated that he is a man of unusual compassion and courage. In addition to his service as state representative for the 42nd District in the Connecticut General Assembly, he served on Ledyard's Board of Education beginning in 1995 and was its chair from 1999 until 2003, when he joined the Ledyard Town Council. Those of us who witness these things will attest that Tom Reynolds is motivated by the highest ideals of public service. The citizens of Ledyard are indeed fortunate to have served by his rare qualities of leadership. Given this 26th day of June 2013 at Ledyard, Connecticut. Linda C. Davis, Chair, Ledyard Town Council.
I think Tom has actually given away a few of these things in his long and illustrious career, but this is has a special meaning, I think, to certainly the Southeast delegation. Essentially what this is a citation from the General Assembly, and be it hereby known to all that the Connecticut General Assembly hereby offers its sincerest congratulations to Thomas Reynolds. In recognition of your many years of service to the state and to your community, we, the members of the Southeast Legislative Delegation, hereby commend you for your diligence, your work ethic, your passion, and your thoughtful deliberations on behalf of your constituents. Your dedication as a public service is without parallel and is so honored. The entire membership extends its very best wishes on this memorable occasion and expresses the hope for continued success. Given this 26th day of June 2013 at the state capitol, well, actually here, by President Pro Tem Donald Williams and Speaker of the House, Brendan Sharkey, and Denise Merrill, Secretary of the State. So, if I just may take the personal liberty as appreciation to Tom for all his help and support as the representative now of 42nd District. Tom has been absolutely invaluable in assisting me throughout my transition to this new position. And I can't tell you how much his thoughtfulness, his dedication, his support meant to me personally. So I give you, on behalf of myself, the state of Connecticut flag. Okay, so thank
you for all the honored guests that are attended as well.
Yes, if I may.
Yes, please.
Yes, we do have the Preston delegation. Very pleased to have Reverend Father Cannon with us, together with our Board of Finance Chair, Jerry Graberic, and both of them have, obviously, by virtue of their presence here, are extending their respects to
Thank you very much.
Good night.
Half the audience.
Good night. The other half's moving now that you said that. Yes.
Thank you, Tim.
Okay, at this time, I would ask Mr. Pete McIntyre from the chairman of the Permanent Municipal Building Committee to come up. And while he does, I want to clarify, because I know things were a bit confusing. So I just wanted to clarify for a minute, if I may.
Sure.
On June 6th, I sent a letter to the chairman, Mr. McIntyre, asking him to come to give an update on the projects that they're working on. And just last week, the Board of Ed voted on a new facilities plan. Since that plan has not been presented to the building committee, I didn't think it was fair to Mr. McIntyre to present a plan that he really wasn't familiar with. So that's why there was some confusion in the paper. And so I just wanted to clarify that and ask Mr. Mr. McIntyre if he would present his plan at this time, or what they're working on at this time.
Thank you, Madam Chair, council members. As you know, right now, the building committee, I'm the chairman of the municipal permanent business.
It's a lot to say.
I know, yeah.
And we're working on 3 projects right now that's in Southwest. The first of all is the Ledyard asbestos abatement program. This is a 5-year program, and for the new council members that are not familiar with it, this program began in 2009. The voters approved at that time an expenditure of about $335,000 for the first year of that program. In 2010, the program was drawn up, that was a 5-year abatement plan, was submitted to the state, approved by the state, and at a 67% funded. Back to the basic 67% of what was spent would be reimbursed by the state. That was put forward to the voters and approved by the voters. At that time, in 2010, $1,200,000 bond was established to pay for the remaining 4 years of the project. We are now in 5th year, which is it. This year we have awarded a contract to Motor Brothers for $109,750 to do this asbestos work. It's planned that the whole project will come in at around $200,000 this year, which includes mist air, environmental monitoring, and replacement of the floor tiles and everything that's been taken up by the asbestos. And that was basically $130,000 under the $330,000 that was budgeted for this year's project. Every year, this project is coming under budget. And that's not we didn't do it. It was done by Sam Kilpatrick, the school facility manager. He's supervision and coordination of these projects and making sure that they get done on time with minimal effect on the schools is reasonably stable. It's a considerable amount of money on this project so far, and he should be commended for that. He's been very good to the committee and to the school. The second project is the Elgin Heights Water Project. It's a 3-phase project, and we're right now doing phase 1 and phase 2. Phase 1A and phase 2. Phase 1A is the construction of water mains and water main drainage improvement for Avery Hill Road, Tucker's Run, and Windham Lane. This project is approximately 85% complete. Right now there's some paving to be done and some the punch. Every major project has a punch list, and we got a punch list. But that's project. It's on time. We planned on it August 13 to have this project done. Nobody done with it. Part of the construction, this project was bid at $1,786,515. It's going to come in about $100,000 under budget, mainly due to the police suppressions we have to have for traffic control. With this project, our hourly rate was reduced from $100 to $75 an hour. Give us $75 an hour, gives considerable savings. The Tucker's Lane portion is going to rely on phase 1B of this project, which is the booster pump station. As this pump station was put out to bid originally, and we got one bid on it, which was $500,000 over the estimated cost. That bid was rejected. Property utilities and engineering reworked the design and went out to bid again. This time we got 3 bids in, and the bid has been awarded to a G-Dun Associate in Britain, I think, New Britain, and for $547,000, which is it's not the original list, but it's well under the $800,000 we got for the first bidder. That project has been approved by the state, funded by the state, but the actual contract has not been approved by the state. We hope to have it done by this week. That will give us a startup time, hopefully, in late September, which we're then the Tucker Run will reserve their water, and so that will really complete phase 1A of the project. Phase 2B is extension of the water main to the Avery Hill Trailer Park. That is also about 85% complete. And that was bid at, let's see, I got it here someplace. That was bid at $2,178,895, and this looks like it's going to come in about $128,000 under budget. That again, partially accrued to the hourly funding of the state, the traffic control. I'd like to say that's about 85% done. So we're running on time. The only glitch is the pump booster station, because of the time involved in getting this project approved. We're still waiting on the state to approve the contractor, but we don't think it's a problem. That's good. So we hope to see that this week. They have 150 days to basically complete the project, but we hope late September that pump booster pump station will be in, and the project will be completed. So that's third project that was just awarded to the park committee, to the building committee, was the police station. The mayor had done some preliminary work on that, which we're going to be discussing at our next meeting on Monday. Hopefully at this time we'll develop a plan, which basically a schedule, a plan for completing this project. This project has been bonded for $6,750,000, which is a lot of money.
We agree.
That's our goal. It's our goal of the committee is to bring that in well under that cost. It's not just building a police station. It's the whole town complex. It has to be renovated and makes it looks home type. But unless there's some major problems that we don't lose with the site preparation, we don't see where that project's going to cost $6 million. So that's our goal is to be under that spot. We're under that project. That's it for any questions?
Are there any specific questions?
I had one about the booster pump station, Mr. McIntyre. I'm going to report on the WPCA meeting last night, and Groton Utilities mentioned that Raul is on vacation this week at the state, so they really weren't sure when we were going to get approval for the project. So you may have
we hope to get it this week.
Okay.
In that case, the contractor has 150 days to complete the project. And we think that's well able to time. We're going to set that.
I hope he comes back from
Soon.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Any other questions?
Any other committee members? I see your whole committee is almost
Yes, we got my whole committee.
Awesome. Anybody else have anything to add they would like to add? No? Well, we can't. We can't thank you enough, and you don't take enough credit for coming in under budget. I mean, did you notice he said, well, we came in under budget, but it was because of this. You said, because it was because of us.
We just monitor the projects and keep sure they're on track and on budget. The execution of the project is something like Sam mentioned. Every year, for 5 years now, he's devoted time and scheduled that project. And he just provides us with the invoice, tells us for the purchase, and say, hey, here it is. And
it's really the way it should work. You know, when we created that ordinance, would we ever have thought they'd have 4 projects at one time?
Well, he's only got 3 right now.
Right.
3 right now.
I tell you, Sam, I'm sure, is looking forward to the summer without having the burden of it, especially. Because that's a lot of work. It really is. He has to prepare the classroom, the space, get all this stuff out of there, let the people come in, then has to put everything back again. It's not an easy job.
I would like to just mention that I know that at the last meeting, some of us were present, and you did have some questions about going forward.
Yes.
And I'm sure you still have questions about going forward on the middle school project. And I thought we'd take, especially since we have such a short agenda, that we might take a minute or so to just maybe express some opinions here of where we are. I'll tell you where I think we are. I just right now got a letter that I picked up from the Board of Education chair with their new proposal or their new prioritized plan. You got a little bit of that at your last meeting, and so they have put it into, I think, a little more specific, probably not as specific as some of us would like to see, but at any rate, a little more specific. And so the way I see it is that the project that you have right now on your desk, so to speak, is the project we sent you, which included the closing of Ledyard Center School for $500,000. That's the proposal you have on your desk.
That was rejected by the state.
That's correct. Or it was...
Well, it was, yeah.
Okay. So what I think you need to know is what your supposed to be, what your marching orders are. And so the council has not had a presentation of this new plan yet. So it would be my understanding that when we get the presentation of the new plan, at that time, we would forward something to you.
If we agree with it.
If we agree with it. But, because I don't think the project you now have is what the Board of Ed
Now wants to do.
But then there's the question that I have to say I've come to gradually over the last several months, and that is, when I really think about this, I think the two projects, the middle school project and what they call the consolidation project, should come together. I think one depends on the other.
Correct.
And I think it's the only right thing to do for the town. Now, if my counselors have any other opinions
I
about
agree with you on
that.
that. Absolutely.
Any,
What I'd like to see on this, I could see one package put together in time for the May referendum, because the middle school project is still critical. Get that security.
We agree with that. Yeah.
And if we get the whole consolidation of the elementary school and the middle school project into one package and put it to the voters, it's much more fiscally responsible. We'll get a higher reimbursement rate from the state if we keep dragging this out for years and years. It's not going to be cheaper.
We recognize that that was one of the reasons why we actually were going to move the last project forward. The council had real concerns about the cost, but we recognize that the middle school is a real safety issue.
And we're not trying to ditch that project at all.
Neither is the council.
Mr. Solms, you had...
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. I'll say again, I have my concerns about closing Ledyard Center School for the impact to town center and the businesses here in Ledyard. I want to say, in addition to that, that the Board of Ed has stated many times, and I believe them, that their goal and their responsibility has been to propose what's best for the children of Ledyard. So we shouldn't require them to worry about the businesses in the center of town. That's the town council's job. We have to balance what the Board of Ed recommends for the good of the children with what we think is good for the whole town.
Correct.
So that's really our challenge. It's also we can't point at the Board of Ed for saying, hey, why didn't you think of the businesses in Ledyard? That was never my intent. But we have a difficult decision to make, and they are all tied together. And I do want to see the new plan before I make any more comments. So, thank you.
Does that help, Mr.
Well,
McIntyre?
yes, I want to add something. I don't think it's in the purview of the building committee to dictate which school or elementary school would be renovated or closed or however, or a new school built.
It is absolutely not.
That's a Board of Education decision. It's not our decision. We carry out projects. They've been to us by the council, and to the best of our ability. We don't go and dictate who closes what school or what school gets renovated, or at least we don't want to.
And we don't know.
We
Then
don't ask.
you're absolutely correct. As a building committee, you get your direction from the council. So the council, the Board of Education is going to present to the council. If we agree, we're going to send it to you. But we're not going to choose what school gets renovated or what school gets closed either. The Board of Education has to make that decision. It comes to us. If we agree, we send it to you. But you're right. You don't have to decide what school to close.
And we don't want to. I mean, we're good at carrying out the project once you give it.
That's your job.
That's our job.
That is your
Thank
job.
you very much.
You're
Oh,
right.
thank you. Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Eichelberg?
I'm sorry.
I'd just like to comment. My neighbor came to me a couple months ago. He has a little 4-year-old who's about to enter into the school system, wanting to know what was going on in the Ledyard school system. He heard a number of different rumors, lots of different stories. Just to kind of add to what some of the other councilors have already said, I think it is far better for us to be able to present an aggregate plan to the public rather than saying, well, if this happens, then this might happen, and then this might happen, and it's far better for us to put together a whole plan that can be consumed at once rather than piecemealing this whole thing.
That's our goal. I'd like to see that goal.
Mr. France?
One of the things I see, I think that, in my view, my vision, I think the building committee is going to have almost two staffs with this. I think there's going to be a collaboration with the building committee to help the Board of Ed gather data to help them in making their decision. They clearly have to look at the academic environment and what is best for the kids from an academic perspective, even on the location. But one of the things that I think that the building committee, based on the experience you have, is the ability to look at renovating middle school, keeping Ledyard Center School open, and what's required to match the academic environment that the Board of Ed dictates. And then counter to that is if Gallup Hill School is kept open, and what would have to be done to that school. And then you have the objective data related to expansion of school, renovation of school, upkeep that's required on each facility, and in combination, then that can be given back to the Board of Ed, which would hopefully help them make a decision on which school they would decide to keep open for those two as they decide as they go through the enumeration. One of the challenges I see with many of much of the process so far is there is a lack of data. Much of it has been done on emotion, and the biggest thing that hasn't been really discussed is the fact that we have had a significant decrease in student population across all the schools, and that the excess space that is in all three campuses of the elementary schools does allow us to close one of them. But yes, clearly it is within the board's purview to do that, and the general statutes require them to make that decision. But so I think that what we're going to see is tasking for the building committee to assist in gathering the data, putting together a white paper, if you will, on those two proposals, giving it back to the Board of Ed for their decision, and then them coming to us, and then finally going back to the building committee with whatever the decided project is for final works. That's kind of what I see is going to be over the next year is the May referendum.
Yes, to that end, I would like to see the town council fund a hiring of a new architect to take a complete new look at the whole complex, the K-12, whole kick as not only the middle school, but the Gallup building, so the whole complex, get one plan together that we can put to the voters and get approved. The middle school, as it's designed right now, it accomplishes what they want to do. When they grade to 6th grade, they want to distribute. But does it have to be that expensive? I don't think it does. I think if a new architect could look at this whole problem and look at all the schools as a bunch, as one package, I think it could be done with a lot less money than we're looking at right now. Thank you.
Thank you.
Roxanne, I've been informed our portal is down. It will not come up over here. No, it keeps telling me there's a connection problem.
I'm providing the chair with a diagram of the names of the counselors.
You know what it is? She's so used to calling us by our first name that the last name gets lost. She's
That's
forgotten.
probably true.
Just a sign you
When
give
do
us
you
a
get
number.
old, Mr.
Oh,
Solis?
I'm already there.
At this time, planning chair, planning and zoning chair, Mike Chair, update regarding Stonegate.
Good evening, Mike Cherry, Chair of the Ledyard Planning and Zoning Commission. And keep you up to date as we go along. I'm happy to be here tonight to say that the stipulated agreement, the stipulated judgment is complete. The judge has certified it as of the 18th of June. I provided some paperwork to you. And again, once again, I'm amazed by your administrative assistance. Late this afternoon, I hate to say how late, I said, hey, I'll send you the electronic files so you have them. And I noticed that they're up on IQM2, and that's no small task that will change that. But I did provide hard copies, and I thought it would be worthwhile. It appears to be working up there. I provided a timeline, and I gave everybody a copy, and this started back in 1997 when Chicago Tallahassee acquired the property. In 2002, an application was submitted and public hearings were held for the initial approval of Stonegate. It was approved with really no public comment and only one stipulation to the approval, and that was putting the gate up across the second entrance. Sewer agreements were in place. There was a way to figure out how to provide money to WPCA to do repairs that were required to support Stonegate until the connection fees came in as the units were populated. GFI acquired the property from Chicago Tallahassee in 2004. My understanding is they had some bank problems in 2009 and Garden Home Management acquired the property. There was a modification of the site plan in 2009 and removed the walking path, removed the lighting for a walking path, put in some new mailboxes. The zoning commission reviewed the lease agreement to make sure that it agreed with the site plan and the regulations. And then in 2011, Third Garden Park acquired the property. I think it's interesting, Mr. Helfrich, I think gave you some information that shows a disclaimer dated 2010 from GFI that said, hey, if we can't market these with the age restriction, we're not let you know up front, you may have to remove it in the future. Well, that was done by GFI before Third Garden Park ever entered the picture. Third Garden Park looked at some things they needed done. They figured that they weren't getting support, and they took an action of applying for affordable housing under Connecticut General Statute 830G, and what they were after was a removal of the age restriction. Many letters to the editor, numerous public hearings, well attended by all the residents. It was clear to the then zoning commission and to those of us that went to those that, beyond a doubt, the current residents and most of Ledyard was against lifting that age restriction. That was why we approved that in the first place. So that stood out from that set of public hearings. Third Garden Park came back later in May of 2012 with a modification as allowed by the statute that would have offset the Rockledge Court area as Ledyard Commons would have been an affordable development split off from the rest of it. More public hearings, and the big complaints there were the site plan and the leases called for exclusive use of the rec center, the community center, by the residents. And if you split the property into two pieces, which residents would the community center go with? And the way the map was drawn, it was like you're going to build a fence around the community center, and that would stay with Stonegate. And Ledyard Commons wouldn't get any of it. It didn't work, and they wanted to remove the age restriction once again. The zoning commission once again approved that application with modifications. The modifications included keeping the age restriction. There were others, but the key thing was the age restriction. Third Garden Park filed an appeal in September of 2012, saying that the conditions prevented marketing, they were onerous and beyond the authority of the zoning commission. Mr. Helfrich and Mr. Lewis filed motions to intervene the parties to the lawsuit. And at that time, I talked with the mayor, and I said, hey, you know, we have a new planning and zoning commission, we have a new mayor. Can we get everybody back together rather than having a judge decide what's going to happen in Ledyard? Sit down across the table. We have representatives for the residents. We have planning and zoning commission, and can we use your good auspices at your table to get everybody to sit down and talk? Because my preference has always been to sit down, look somebody in the eye, and say, what are we going to do to solve this problem? We had a couple of meetings. We met with Mr. Helfrich and Mr. Lewis a couple of times. We met with Third Garden Park and all the attorneys. A couple proposals came in. Some absolutely wouldn't work. The first one was putting 2 single wides in every lot that didn't have something on it. And we didn't like it, but we didn't really go back because it seemed obvious to us that all the infrastructure was already installed, and it was probably going to be hard to split that out and put 2 homes where there was infrastructure for 1. So they rapidly realized that and came back with a different proposal for duplex and triplex units that seemed to meet all the conditions that we were able to glean from the interveners and the residents. Over 55, 512 roof pitch, 20-foot setbacks from the road, look and feel of what's already there. You heard Mr. Helfrich refer to the trailer with the 312 pitch, and they really don't like that. And it looks different. So they had asked that they look the same. And so we went back and forth on that. I put the date in that the judge actually accepted Mr. Helfrich and Mr. Lewis's interveners. We met again after the last proposal came in April, and it was apparent to me that Mr. Lewis and Mr. Helfrich misread what the proposal was. They thought it was only to put duplex and triplex units in the Rockbridge Court area, when in fact it was to increase density up to 120, still having 80 units, and it would allow duplex units outside that area. They went back to the residents. In April, Planning and Zoning met in executive session, went over the proposal that we had negotiated and authorized our lawyer to proceed. In May, Mr. Helfrich petitioned to withdraw as an intervener. I don't know why. We'd have to ask him. In June, Planning and Zoning approved the judgment by stipulation. On the day the judgment by stipulation was granted, the judge approved Mr. Helfrich's withdrawal as an intervener. And that's kind of the timeline. I included copies of the final stipulation for judgment. Most of what's in here comes out of 13.5 of the old zoning reg. We didn't, where we did deviate from that, we found other examples in town where we do that already. So it would be hard to argue that it can't be done in Ledyard. It is a change. I know some don't like it, but the key thing is, and what I heard through a lot of the public hearings, is that the stress of this hanging over their heads was affecting their health. And I think those who were at the public hearings heard the same thing. Our conclusion of planning and zoning was it provides needed senior housing for Ledyard. It provides a market opportunity for property owners, and it provides a means to fill in those empty lots and alleviate the construction debris. I think Mr. Helfrich also gave you some pictures. There's a zoning complaint filed on that, and the zoning official is working on that. Because the regulations say, I'm going to screw it up. I think it says 2 weeks after construction is done, if you haven't cleaned it up, it's junk and you're in violation. And I may be wrong on the 2 weeks, but it's been there longer than the regs will allow, and he's working with the owner to go clean that up so they don't have to live with the mess. That's where we are today. It's on us now to make sure through our staff that it gets enforced and that the developer moves on this and doesn't just sit on it. I'd be happy to answer any questions if I could, or take notes and go find an answer if I can.
Any questions? Mr. Solis.
Mr. Cherry, could you clarify how many, with the duplex and triplex units, can children be in any of those units?
The way it's worded is it's an over 55 community, and no one under 18 is allowed to be a resident. Can children be there? If I bought a unit and my grandchild came for a week, that probably wouldn't violate those terms. But if something happened in the family and my grandchild came to live with me, that would probably violate it. There would be action that would need to be taken to alleviate that.
So I want to say that I appreciate all your hard work, and it's a lot of hard work that you and the Planning and Zoning, the Zoning Commission put into this project. I appreciate the fact that we have a solution, but I resent the way the developers and owners of this project have pushed the town around. When this project went in, they clear-cut trees that were to be left as a buffer. The town had to force them to build a berm, replant the berm. The town has pursued them for years about construction delay, and I know this is a way to debris. I know this is a way to get rid of construction debris, but the owner could also just clean it up. They could just conform with the town's regulations, and they could honor the requests of their own customers to make the property more presentable. So, again, I appreciate everything you've done. I also just want to say this is not the way to treat customers, it's not the way to treat residents, and it's not the way to treat towns. And I'm speaking to the developer right here.
Well, I would agree, but I'd also point out on the timeline that a lot of what you're referring to is not the current owner.
I understand.
And I think, and the mayor can correct me if I'm wrong, but part of our conversation with the current owner is we want to end this adversarial relationship. We want him to succeed because it's good for the residents and it's good for the town. And snipping at each other all the time doesn't help us market, doesn't improve the situation, and doesn't make him want to do things that are better. So I'm hoping this turns a new leaf with the new developer. I mean, he came in basically the first part of 2012, and I'm trying to stay on facts and not opinion, and tried to make some improvements and ended up having to file under 832 because he thought he was getting stonewalled by the town. Don't know. I wasn't involved. But I think we've made it clear to him that we want to move forward and make this a viable community because we don't have another one.
Absolutely. And I hope you're right. I hope it does that. I hope he is different than the predecessor.
And you know, it's on us to make sure he is, and I'll acknowledge that. Sometimes it's not in his best interest to spend time cleaning something up this week if he's going to mess it up next week, but that's what the regulations say. Now, don't make the mess in the first place. It's a lot easier. So.
Anyone else? Mr. Eichelberg?
Is that right?
You did? That's because I have a cheat sheet now.
First of all, let me echo Councilor Soms. I appreciate what so many of you guys have been dealing with for so long in this. 2 years ago, when Councilor France and I were campaigning over in that area, it was appalling to us at that time how much debris, construction debris, was still hanging around, you know, and of course, every one of the residents wanted to point it out to us.
But you couldn't see that.
Well, it was very obvious, but, you know, certainly they wanted to make sure that we knew about it. And, you know, I've got to say, my sympathies is with the owners there, with the residents. But I do understand the issues and all of that. But let me just remind you that we do have, as of a few months ago, a bright, shiny new ordinance called Blight that might be used effectively to help clean up some of that stuff hanging around. A couple more years and that stuff's just going to melt right into the ground.
Well, I will say that, once again, we hired a zoning officer that became full-time on June 1st, and he's on it. If it's defined as junk in the zoning laws, I'm not sure I need to go to a blight ordinance.
Right, you already got it.
I think I just need to
saying,
go
it is
take care of
there.
it, and he's on it. And that's, once again, zoning enforcement is the responsibility of the zoning enforcement officer. And he's assured me he's got a handle on it. The rooster is gone.
I'd like to see these folks not have to deal with another 2, 3, 4, 5 years with a very partially finished community.
Anyone else have any comments? Mr. France?
I have a question. One of the stipulations here regarding the Rockledge Court area states that no duplexes will be allowed to be built outside that area until 20...
All lots are filled in the Rockledge Court area, correct.
Essentially.
Correct.
Where, having walked through that, and I see there are specific lots that are reserved for single-family dwellings, are all those lots developed that are stipulated in the agreement, or they still have?
No, they are undeveloped.
Okay. How many undeveloped lots outside Rockledge are available to be duplexes? And is there any control over?
There's 36 existing homes. There's 22 lots on the original drawing in Rockledge, which would be 58, which would be 22 outside. 8 of those are reserved for single family. You didn't tell me I was going to have to do math.
14.
These 14 times 2, so it's about 28. Could be duplex.
Is there any control that the town has or the residents have over the builder's decision on whether to put duplexes or not? To be honest, if I was the builder, I wouldn't even build there and then go build more duplexes, not try a market single.
Well, but he's got to find a market for them. Once again,
Yeah.
everybody assumes that the regulations drive it. I'll tell you, market drives zoning and building. It really does. And he knows he has a market for rentals, and that's why he was pretty keen on putting in some one-bedrooms. And the one-bedrooms all exceed the square footage of what we have for one bedroom, so it's within our regulations. Couldn't find any others like that in town, so it made sense. And it helps him move along. And I really do see this as win-win-win. And I know Larry and some of the residents don't agree, but when Third Garden Park bought that property, they spent $1.8 million in Ledyard for development that they wanted to bring to us. And I agree with Councilor Eichelberg, we have a responsibility to the lessees, the renters, the residents, but we also have a responsibility to the owner. And he has to perform. Everybody's concerned that he's going to come and change. I would invite you to go read the law on the subject, talk to a lawyer. I'm not a lawyer. I stayed on Ledyard Express last night, though, so I'm in pretty good shape. But my understanding is a stipulated agreement can't be changed. If you want to change that court order, you got to go back to court. So he can't come back before zoning next year and say, hey, I want to do this. Okay, file and go back to court. It's court order. There is no appeal. Because it was an agreement reached by negotiation. I think we're getting what we need for the town.
Any other comments? I would just like to add, if I might, that the intention of 830G was to provide much-needed low-income housing. Unfortunately, what it has become is a loophole for developers who don't want to follow the rules.
Absolutely.
Especially in Ledyard.
And
Across the state.
It's happening in the towns that don't have enough affordable housing, so it's the bedroom community.
And so I do have promised Senator Austin that I would meet with her and tell her some of the things that have gone on in Ledyard, and I know they're happening in other places, but I'm a realtor. I've been criticized for my position on 830G in a big way, actually, like from the big heads up in the state realtors of the sky, that how can you be against low-income housing? I am not against affordable housing. I'm against the way this is written.
Or you're against the way it's being used.
It's being used, thank
Yeah,
you.
it's the way it's being used, because affordable housing, we could use affordable housing in Ledyard. Everybody agrees with that. It's just when it's used as a big club,
Yes.
force us into something we don't like.
Once again, we were supposed to have Dave Fink from Partnership for Strong Communities at our meeting in June, and we had storms and he had to cancel. That's a very worthwhile presentation, and we asked him two questions. How do communities without infrastructure provide enough density to hit the thresholds in the Home Connecticut law that provides stimulus money to the towns to be able to offset some of the costs of doing these types of things? And what have other towns done to gain that infrastructure? And I agree with the chair that the onesie, twosie type things don't get you affordable housing. Affordable housing
It's development.
in a trailer park development that's affordable by nature is a way to get around the regulations. And more, that's what it's become. It's a good law that's being abused. And maybe it needs a threshold or something, but hey, Senator Ostin's going to be at our Ledyard Senior Center for a town meeting type thing. I intend on showing up. I'm going to call our office beforehand and say, hey, I want to talk about affordable housing. What's the state doing for us, and what can we do to help? And I think the more of us that show up and ask those kind of questions, the more chance we have of changing it. And it's across Connecticut. I'll send you guys an email on a book I just finished reading on titled like Snob Zone. Really, it's directed at communities like Darien, Greenwich, that really abuse this. And they have the infrastructure. They could do the housing.
Final comment.
One comment to it, if you reach the stipulated agreement, talking about the affordable housing, none of these are likely affordable housing. So none of this stock, housing stock, will go toward the 10% requirement the state had for the 830G.
Why won't it?
Because that's the way the stipulated agreement is worded, none of it goes into the 830G housing stock.
We took a hard look at it and said, by definition, these are affordable. To put a deed restriction on and saddle the town with the administrative duties of maintaining that when it's inherently affordable is a sham. So we didn't ask for it. We told them we didn't want that. That if he wants to build affordable housing, go build affordable housing. But don't label something that's not as affordable housing.
Okay, that was the final word. Thank you for pointing that out. That just makes me even madder.
Oh, come on.
Any other committee, commission, and board reports?
I think we got enough.
Comments of town councilors? Oh, yes.
Sure.
Go.
Right into it. I just wanted to say I really enjoyed the Ledyard High School graduation. It was the first time I set foot back on that field since I graduated myself. And I had the privilege of giving my stepson his high school diploma. So that was great, and a truly dynamic class of young individuals graduated that school this year. I think that we should all look forward to seeing what they do with themselves, because they are some really sharp, young, talented people. So many of us were there, and it was a great night.
Mr. Song.
Councilor Allen beat me to it, so I wanted to congratulate you on your son's graduation. Also, Councilor France, it was a beautiful evening.
Yeah, it was.
Congratulations to the entire class. And to Principal Amanda Fagan. That was my circles.
And Counselor.
Also, to emulate both Councilor Allen and Councilor Songs, congratulations to the Ledyard High School graduating class 2013. I also was there, enjoyed it very much. Would also like to thank all the other Ledyard graduates from the elementary school and junior high school as well.
Very good. Any other comments? Counselor McGrath.
I was not at the graduation, but I would like to congratulate Our Lady of Lourdes on 50 years in the town of Ledyard. They've had their celebration on Saturday night. Two things, the Ledyard seniors met today, and there's going to be a Freedom of Information session at the Ledyard Senior Center sometime in July. I have to think it's going to be during the day. Date to be announced, but as soon as it comes out, we'll let you know. Also, there's a second bus coming to the senior center. One bus is going to be taken offline because it's in bad shape, and the price that is going to be $1,000 more than was set aside for the bus. So the staff decided to do a fundraiser. So they're going to have a lobster and clam bake at the senior center on August the 17th. It's going to be $45 a person. They're hoping to sell 100 tickets and make that $1,000 that they need to pay that for the bus. So it is open to everybody August 17th at the senior center.
Yes, Mr. Eichelberg.
Perhaps the mayor is going to give us an update on this later in his report, but I just wanted to make a comment on how terrific the roads are looking in this town. I've had an opportunity to drive around on many of them, and man, what an improvement. So many of them, this new slurry that they're putting down is just doing wonders for it. So,
Thank you. Mr. France?
I'd like to recognize the Ledyard Music Program. The Chamber Choir had their final concert of the year. This year they had the alumni concert over at Harkness Chapel. And they charged admission for this year. They recognized the 20th anniversary of the first auditioned group, 92-93 class. They had 14 of the 16 original members were here. They were recognized. They sang a separate 2 songs. In addition to that, they started a fund to support Ledyard music. They're hoping to endow that fund and raise money to ensure that future generations of Ledyard students will have the benefit of the music program that we all know so well. They had to delay the final concert from Friday to Sunday, and the reason for that was that the track team was down in South Carolina, I believe it was, and I want to recognize the 4x100 relay team that set a national record and won 2 gold medals. And one of the singers, Steven Servideo, was on that. He's a member of the Chamber Choir, so they held their concert on Sunday night. So I'd like to recognize him.
Any other council comment? I have one. I would like to state for the public that Highlands Lake is not contaminated, despite what you read online, which leads me to my next event tonight. And that is not everything you read online is true. Even if they call it facts, often they are not facts. And now I'm going to put my teacher hat on. You know, I love social media. You all know that. But when you administer a site online, you have a responsibility to try to be sure that what you put out is accurate. And so when at 10 a.m. in the morning you say that Highlands Lake is contaminated, and despite emailing them, posting it on their site, and making comments, it still, I believe right now, still says that Highlands Lake has been designated contaminated by the Ledyard Health District. That's just irresponsible. So That's my second, I think that's my second one. I think I'm entitled to 3, so you might have one more coming for this evening. Any
We'll
other
see,
comments?
we'll let you know when you get to 3 if you do.
Let me know so I can duck.
Okay.
No, we'll get back, you'll get it. It'll come your way.
On to minutes approval.
Make a motion to approve all 3 of the minutes approved, vote.
Is there a second? Any corrections, Roxanne? Call the roll.
Mr. France?
Yes.
Mrs. McGrattan? Yes. Mr. Soms?
Yes.
Mrs. Wadecki?
Abstain?
Mr. Allen?
Abstained.
Mrs. Davis?
Yes.
Mr. Dombrowski?
Yes.
Mr. Eichelberg?
Yes.
I may have not been there and abstained from the meeting, but I did enjoy reading the minutes, especially the coffee crack.
No, this is closed. Closed. No comments from the audience at this time.
6 in favor, 2 abstentions.
Motion carries. Communications, you've all received that. Since the communication list went out, I did receive a letter from the chairman of the Ledyard Board of Education stating that they met on June 19th, and they approved the motion to renovate, moved by Mrs. Cronin, second by Mrs. Peck-Llewellyn, to approve the following recommendations for a prioritized plan to address school facilities needs. Renovate as new Ledyard Middle School and construct an additional wing to accommodate 6th grade students. Consolidate Gallops Hill School and Ledyard Center School as one of 2 elementary learning centers, and to share long-term school facilities plan with town officials. So I will give you that for the record. Referrals, pardon me, yes?
But clarifying the ability at the beginning of the meeting from the president in case he wants to come back.
Oh, I'm sorry, thank you. At the beginning of every meeting, we have a section where we do allow for public comment.
It was at 7 o'clock.
And that's at 7 o'clock when we start.
Okay, I'm a commissioner in town. I just got the message yesterday to show up today. I'm a commissioner in wetlands. I get a spike every 2 years. I've talked to Mr. Sanders about it before.
Oh, I'm sorry, you're a commission member?
Of wetlands, yes I am.
Oh, I have no problem if you had a comment then under board and commission reports.
He was here, he just didn't realize you should speak.
I got a personal issue, but I like what I'm hearing and everything else, and it's beautiful that people will come up about that. And on the sidebar, if they're going to close the schools, are they thinking about using that school for the kids, the other schools?
Okay, and that's what we can't hear at this time, but you're more than welcome. Please come to future meetings. We'd love having you, because sometimes we have nobody.
I got hit by a drunk driver, so
Oh, dear.
I've been down for a little while.
Okay.
And like I said, I got a phone call late yesterday, and I tried to make it here today.
Okay.
Like I said, I talked to Mr. Simmons 2 years ago about an issue I have. Every 2 years I get a spike in my water.
Well, we'll invite you to come to a future meeting, and at the beginning of the meeting, we'll...
Maybe I could, so did you want to talk about your water bill?
Yes.
Oh, that would be...
Okay, then you should speak to the WPCA.
I did, and he told me to come to the meeting.
Okay.
Sorry. WPCA meeting.
Yeah, there's one person in common here, Bill.
Why don't you give me your name and number on a piece of paper, and I will contact you and help you out. How's that?
And Bill will.
Yeah.
Okay. At this point, we will move on to committee, council subcommittee liaison reports, admin, Mr. Eichelberg.
Administration Committee has not met since our last meeting, so there's nothing new to report.
Community services, Mr. Marshall. Okay. Finance, Mr. France.
In addition to the items that are on the agenda, we had a presentation from our insurance consultant concerning the impacts of the Affordable Care Act and going forward. I won't get into a lot of detail if you want to read the minutes from the meeting, but it was about an hour and 15-minute presentation and discussion, and lots of questions based on some of the experience that the members of the Finance Committee have had, both personally and professionally, with impacts. And there are changes going forward, and there are some considerations that we're going to have to look at, both within the town and town government and the Board of Ed, so we're following that.
Thank you. Any questions? Information technology, Mr. Sullins.
Has not met since the last town council.
Any questions for IT? I did have one. I spoke to Mr. Sullins today about it, and that is the People GIS system, and Mr. Sullins agreed to put it on his agenda. We have this wonderful opportunity with People GIS that we're not taking advantage of, I think. And I think it occurred to me when I went to the emergency operations meeting last week, and we heard about how people have lists of people that need help during emergencies, et cetera, and they're on Excel spreadsheets, or they're in one person's computer or another, and they really ought to be in one database, and it ought to be a database that's mapped. We have that, we're paying for it, and so I think
That's a very good idea, because they really do, it's important to know that information they have on that list tells them who's handicapped, who needs to be,
Right.
And that's a very important list that we should
That
have.
was a big discussion today at the senior commission meeting.
good,
It's an item on our agenda, so we'll sure talk about
good. Land use, Mr. Dombrowski.
Land use is not met since our last.
Any questions for land use? Mr. Allen, Board of Education Liaison?
Yes, I have my report in IQM2, and I will just briefly go over it. Board of Ed did meet on the 19th, last Wednesday. The Ledyard district was actually the first school district, I believe, in the state of Connecticut to implement the Common Core state standards a year ahead. And there was a teacher there that commented on, she's really, really excited and pleased with the new curriculum and what she's actually able to teach the kids, which is great. The math team placed 6th in the region, which is a combination of public and private schools in the area. They did very well, including against private schools. Victor, and you probably know Victor's last name, and Chuan Ren, okay, Victor Zhang, a Chinese exchange student, and Chuan Ren also competed nationally in the math competition at Penn State. And it was quite an experience for them. As Councilor France stated, the track team went to Greensboro, North Carolina to compete in the Nationals, and they brought home 2 gold medals for the 4x100 and the 4x200, which is the first ever for Ledyard High School to have a gold medal team on the national level. So definite congratulations to them. Let's see, several of the accounts right now are negative. They're negative right now basically, according to Mr. Merrill, by way of waiting for state reimbursement, so they feel like their budget was pretty much right on the money this year. They most likely will be looking for additional funding for special education next year, so people on Board of Finance, that's important to know. They did use their natural gas savings to offset potential losses of staff. So they're going to have to look at how they're going to handle that next year, because that's used up. The VOAG is using their funding to buy a bus and a pickup truck. The spring indices for the elementary schools and the middle schools went very well. Most of the kids were most of the grades increased for both writing and reading. And let me pick out something else. Lastly, at the end of the meeting, they did finally approve, which Madam Chairman pointed out tonight.
That's Davis. If you had that little sheet.
Yeah, I needed that too. So they did approve the yeah, where is it? I need it. I can't find it. All right, so they approved the prioritized plans for the schools, so we're going to have to get into that further with them. But it sounds like they're on the right track moving forward with the realignment of the schools.
Any questions? Thank you for doing that, because, I always sit here, and I remember the time I called you Mr. Steve?
Oh, yeah.
I couldn't come up with Dombrowski if my life depended on it.
Mr. Steve is what they called me when I used to teach Sunday school.
Yeah.
There you go, so Mr. Steve worked. I do have a question. I do have a question for Mr. Allen, because I keep asking this question, and I'm not sure I still know the right answer. When is the sixth graders moving to the middle school?
They were put off for this coming year, so they're still at least a year out. This fall, it's not going to happen.
Okay.
They're hoping that it will be another year out. Apparently, they put together a committee on the move of the sixth grade. They decided to defer that one more year. Okay. So it's supposed to be this coming fall. It's not going to be this coming fall.
Okay.
I thought they weren't going to do it until they go through the addition.
They were going to try to move them into surplus space in the Juliet Long School.
Okay.
So the sixth grades can all fit in Juliet Long.
Okay.
And then the idea was, but I guess there was some resentment towards having them in Juliet Long for a year and then moving them into the middle school. Because they kind of would feel like they're outcasts of sorts for a year in limbo. Exactly, better than outcast, in limbo. So that's where that stands.
Okay.
Does that help at all?
So is that the only
Yes,
rationale for not going ahead with the middle school curriculum for the sixth graders?
No. The other piece of it was that they felt like they were being rushed to do that. That they had already implemented all-day kindergarten, and they weren't going to make the sixth grade move at the same time. And because they didn't feel like the classrooms at Juliet Long were actually properly equipped for the sixth grade classes. So they wanted to see that they'd be ready for them to move them, and they're not.
I guess my comment to that is I'm a little disappointed because Dr. Bernier came and said that he sat down with the fifth graders and they stated they clearly weren't ready, which clearly understood, to move that meeting next fall. But now we're talking 16 months later and we didn't put a plan in place to come and comply with what he was going to do because he told the fourth graders they were moving. If we put it off another year, I don't see a plan that they're going to get there and we'll be coming back here another year later and we say, well, we're going to put it off another year.
Right.
So I guess I'm a little disappointed that we're not hearing that changed, and here the time we're hearing a lot of rumor along the way.
Yeah.
I would much prefer to have the Board of Ed inform the council that things change as opposed to dealing with rumor in the window.
Mm-hmm.
I think we can probably ask that question when the Board of Ed comes to present there. I think it would be an appropriate time. My concern is just that this was all supposed to be due to the Common Core, and if that's the case, how come we can keep delaying it years? But at any rate, we don't want to pick on Mr. Allen here.
We're not
he's
killing
just
the messenger.
You're okay.
I'm a big boy.
He's the messenger.
Yeah, but we're not going to kill the messenger.
No. The messenger can handle himself.
Yeah.
Speaking of the messenger, Mr. Solms,
Yeah, you really want to hear this report?
We might kill the messenger.
Yeah, now. So the WPCA met last night. They meet the fourth Tuesday of every month, 7 o'clock right here, 1 of 10. And at the meeting, Dr. Robert Hildebrand, who a former member of the WPCA and attends regularly, questioned the town's settlement with Third Garden Park regarding permitting 40 additional homes to be built at Stonegate and the impact to the town's sewer system, which Chairman Cherry addressed. He stated that had been considered and they did have the capacity. But I thought it was a good question. Also, as you heard earlier from Mr. McIntyre, bids were received for the Avery Hill Pump Station. Building Committee selected G. Donovan as the lowest bidder, $547,000. And also, as Mr. McIntyre reported, this cost, this second time, came in lower than expected. So it's a good thing that they put it out for a second. We saved about $300,000, $250,000. So the next step is to receive approval from the state, and then they can begin construction of the pump station. The WPCA also rescheduled the date for the public hearing for the water rate increase. You'll recall I reported at the last meeting that they had set a date, but they didn't make the deadline for public notice. It's now Monday, July 15th at 7 p.m., and that's for the public to comment on the proposed rate increase.
Now, is that going to be scheduled in the council chambers again, or are they going to schedule it in the high school?
They're working on a location. They will find a location.
Because
That will be in the notice.
In reading the minutes, I noticed
Yeah.
that was brought up, that
Yeah.
this is going to be a big enough space. And,
Right.
okay.
Yep.
Just making sure they're all thinking of that.
They have also committed to put the notice not only in the newspaper, but also on the town's website and in all social media used by the town. That was from Mr. Bancroft, from the mayor's office. Chairman Diaz also provided new billing data showing gallons of water sold that was generated by the billing system. This is something we've been looking for years and years, so we can figure out what our true costs are. This was a very interesting meeting, at least to me. So we now have billing data for gallons of water sold. We know how many gallons of water we purchased. So they set a special date, or a date for a special meeting with Groton Utilities to continue talks regarding the long-term contract. That's on July 16th, and Chairman Diaz indicated he would respond to the mayor's letter from yesterday in connection with that, and he's going to invite you, Mayor, to that meeting. The WPCA also discussed the possibility of adding Oak Hills Trail to the Elgin Heights Avery Hill Water Project, and after a lengthy discussion regarding grant funding opportunities, the WPCA voted to endorse recommending the addition of the water main on Oak Hills Trail. That's not their decision to make, it's the town council, so we'll be hearing from them regarding the recommendation. Finally, two more things. The WPCA also discussed the mayor's letter regarding inactive pump stations and unused buildings. There are several around town that we need to demolish or get rid of, including the old Highlands pump station. And last, Groton Utilities provided a list of recommended meter and equipment upgrades for meter replacement. So this was interesting to me because towns regularly schedule replacing their meters. And Groton Utilities has gone through all of our meters and found a number of meters where we don't even know the last time it was replaced, including some meters that are oversized and out of date. And when meters aren't running correctly, they always run slow. Meaning they never report using more water than you're billing for, getting billed for. So the implication of that is if we're not metering and reporting all of the water that's going through our system so that we can bill for it, we are definitely metering the water coming into the system that we are being charged for. So there's a potential savings here for the WPCA in recovering unbilled for water. I have no idea how many gallons that might be. Could be significant.
Yeah, you said that you now know how much you billed for, but you didn't say how much was billed to us. So they didn't compare that at the meeting?
That's their next step. Chairman Diaz provided this data. He got the data working with the town's office staff to get the water, the gallons billed, and now he's going to go back through the invoices from Groton Utilities to see how many gallons
So you didn't
purchased.
compare them before the meeting?
Not yet.
Okay.
Not yet.
That'll be an interesting piece of information.
It absolutely will. Yeah. So the last thing about this is it's going to cost in excess of $20,000 to replace these old meters and improperly sized meters. WPCA doesn't have the funding, but I think it's something we as the town council and the WPCA should find a way to support, because every month that goes by with us potentially wasting water or giving away water, we prolong the losses at the WPCA. That's my report.
Any questions? Yes, Councilor
With respect to the meters, is there a life of the meters? So we'd have to phase in replacement of these every 5 years or 10 years and then
Yes.
budget that amount going forward?
Yeah, different water companies cycle their meters anywhere between 7 and, I think, 13 years.
But it also depends on the brand.
Depends on the brand, and part of this was replacing old, out-of-date meters.
Right, I understand
But, yeah,
some cost of 20,000, but going forward.
I see where you're going. Yeah,
Well,
some
let's
cost,
say for that,
capital
right.
planning, and the WPCA does budget for that. However, we've discovered these meters in the past when we never really weren't maybe not paying attention to actually replacing the meters. We just budgeted for it, but didn't.
Well, didn't we have a bunch in the Gallup Hill pump station that
The ones
burned?
that burned?
Yeah.
Yeah, those were just house ones, not the size that they're talking about here. Some of
6, as I recall, there's 6 large meters in that list, and big meters like, moving a lot of water, those are the ones of greatest concern. So they're specialized meters as opposed to the ones that go in everyone's home. So,
But those ones that go in the home would have been useful to have now for
Absolutely.
replacing meters.
absolutely. Yep.
And I'm not sure that this is possible, but it would be interesting. That's not an insignificant amount of money to, just come up with, but it would be interesting based on Groton Utilities' experience, and since we do know the number of meters that need to be replaced, if we could come up with some kind of an estimate on how much water we are not properly billing for.
It occurred to me, it was discussed at the meeting, that we should look at them one by one, and maybe we don't replace them all, but
Yeah, even if it was just a rough order of magnitude,
Right.
So that we could know, $20,000 gets us this back.
yeah,
Right.
absolutely.
Because you can tell what you billed them 10 years ago and 5 years ago, and if the numbers
Sure.
are plummeting, then we have a pretty good idea what we're losing.
So this was the first the WPCA heard of it, and I think we'll get more information as it sinks in and they do more analysis, but I'll take that back.
Any other questions? Mayor's report.
Okay, thank you. Two things. As you know, in the emergency services area, I'm working 3 areas: the emergency service, the police building, and the police building, which obviously is with the building committee, but also the other 2 issues, which is dispatch service and the future of our police department. What I have been doing is speaking with some of the local chiefs of police, CEOs, and as well as some of our own town officials and people, just to make sure that we get all of these things right. All 3 of those items and those issues are interconnected, and every conversation I have, I get some new information. I'm also preparing a letter to go to our own police in order to get from them what some of the issues are that we need to be looking at and asking them some questions about the future of our police force. I recognize some of these decisions are being done rather deliberately, and that's not unintentional, because I think we're only going to get one shot at some of these decisions, and I want to make sure we make the right decisions. So again, those meetings are going on. I would say to anyone, as I said many times from this seat, from my office, that if you have questions, if you have information, I certainly would like to hear it, and I certainly would like to discuss it with you. Tomorrow morning, I will be meeting with the Town Hall Union, because we are at a point, as you may know, where based on the meeting, the public safety meeting that we had, the issue really comes down to we have 3 viable options. Groton is the cheapest. Montville is the easiest, potentially. And our own option is the best option, but it's the most expensive, significantly more expensive. And so I'm going to be meeting with the unions to just give them that information. And again, what I do is, as well as the things I do, is give people homework assignments to go off and answer some questions that we have. Because again, the easy decision is to stay with what we have right now, and then we may be sitting here, or you may be sitting here, or someone else may be sitting here in 2017 or 2019 and saying, oh my goodness, that was a dumb decision back then, now what do we do? Of course, if we made a decision to go someplace else, we could be saying the same thing.
Right.
But there are a lot of these types of discussions going on throughout this region as far as what to do with the future of police departments, future of emergency communications. It's amazing to talk to people and see the agony that they're going through in other towns on these exact same decisions. The audit should be completed by this Friday. It is going through their own internal reviews, so
It's the drop dead date.
Our long annual nightmare is almost over. It has been very taxing. I just want to assure you that it has been rather stressful on the finance department. This has been a transition year, and we've learned some very valuable lessons. And I'm confident that next year things are going to go much better and much smoother. So that presentation should be going to finance sometime this summer. You mentioned roads, and I appreciate the compliment, and I would give the compliment back to the to prior councils and to the taxpayers of the town who gave us, additional bonding money to make some big leaps as far as the roads that we're doing. That combined with some of the favorable construction prices we've been getting, has allowed us to do a significant number of roads. I tell people that we're hard pressed to find a major feet of road in this town that's not been done recently. We're down to the last few, Vinegar Hill. They're getting ready to finish the Stonington portion and the last Ledyard portion of Lantern Hill Road. The reason that wasn't done is because that's going to be done with BIA money. So from the intersection of Woodford Road up to where we had previously done the work on Lantern Hill Road, again with BIA money, that road will be finished off. So we're getting to some of the short, the last few items. So questions that we get as far as striping. I know it is very adventurous to ride down a road that's been recently paved that doesn't have lines on it, especially at this time of year when the roads are all about 4 foot narrower. But the reason we're doing that is because we're batching these roads, so we bring the person in to do the striping all at once, and that seems to work out fairly well. So I know that some roads have not been done yet. Long Cove Road, I don't think is done. I'm not sure about Pumpkin Hill Road. So those are going to be done, weather permitting, possibly this week. And then just one other thing, the past couple of weeks, and especially the past 24 hours, we had another reminder that Ledyard has dangerous roads. I was at the DARE presentation at the high school a month or so ago, and gave my little speech that hopefully someone listened to. Our roads are narrow, the trees are too close to the ends of the road. Children, bikers, and runners pop up in the strangest places, as I found out today, that, you're there, what in the world are these people doing there? It's made even more dangerous at this time of year by the overgrowth you get on the sides of the road. So, we have a road crew that's out there. They're working on dangerous intersections. If you know of an intersection that's either overgrown by trees or branches or weeds, let us know. We'll try to get to there as soon as we can. But again, there are bad intersections in town. I go through one every morning, and you just have to exercise caution. And you've got to drive especially carefully this time of year because the sight lines are overgrown. So with that, I will entertain any questions.
Any questions for the mayor? Mrs. McGrath.
On the dispatch, you said that ours was the most expensive. Did they come up with the numbers, the dispatchers, our dispatchers?
No. We get that.
Finance gave the numbers?
Our emergency, emergency administrator had to do it. That has been one of the things that has slowed the process down is, we have not gotten numbers. We've had to calculate them ourselves, so now the question is, are those the right numbers?
Okay. Based on that, is there, and this certainly going back to the dispatchers, is there any way that they can reduce those numbers?
I don't know. We're talking about it. Now, keep in mind the fact that, again, when I talk about the numbers, I'm not talking about the numbers in the budget, because that is not what we requested for qualification. We're looking for a dispatch staffing and scheduling that's comparable to what Groton and Montville have proposed to us. The reason being that we're looking towards the future to become a regional dispatch center, if that's even possible, and we can't do it the way we dispatch now. Also looking at the future, potentially an independent police force would require changes also. And the last thing we want to do is make a decision now, and then at some point we go forward and we have no ability to make changes. We're going to be in a difficult position, which we are in right now. In speaking with people, speaking with Montville, speaking with Waterford, those towns, they've cornered the market to a certain extent. We're landlocked on this side of the river. There's very little on this side of the river that's potentially available for Ledyard. So we're at a tremendous disadvantage in terms of just being competitive.
Any other questions for the mayor? Thank you. Old business, I understand we're not moving on this one yet, correct?
No. Let me just give a brief update, because we haven't moved on this a couple of times, so people will know where we're at. Basically, last time the administration committee met, we met with HR Chairman Don Steinhoff, and we had a few recommendations to go back and change a couple of items in the job description. He has taken those. At our next meeting, we will review it again and probably move it forward at that time.
Thank you. Any questions? At this time, would anybody like to amend the agenda under new business?
I'll move the consent calendar.
Second.
Could you clarify for me which items are?
1 and 2.
1 and 2, okay. Anybody like to remove anything from the consent calendar? Roxanne, would you call the roll?
Mrs. McGrattan? Yes. Mr. Soms?
Yes.
Mrs. Wadecki?
Yes.
Mr. Allen?
Yes.
Mrs. Davis?
Yes.
Mr. Dombrowski?
Yes.
Mr. Eichelberg?
Yes.
Mr. France?
Yes.
8 in favor, 0 opposed.
Motion carries. Item number 3, Mr. France.
Make a motion to appropriate FEMA funds received for reimbursement for FEMA events DR 4087, Tropical Storm Sandy, and DR 4106, 2013 blizzard as follows in amounts up to those identified. Board of Education, $1,978, CNR account 210700101-58250, Board of Ed Reserve. WPCA, $8,258, account 5019099159305, wastewater CNR Reserve. Public Works Capital, $13,930, CNR account 21040101-57311, heavy equipment reserve. Public Works Capital, $20,000, CNR account 21040101-57312, large trucks reserve. Police Capital, $2,657, CNR account 21020101-57300, new equipment reserve. Gales Ferry Fire Company Capital, $171, CNR account 21020551-57300, new equipment reserve. Ledyard Fire Company Capital, $189, CNR account 2120501-57300, new equipment reserve. Gales Ferry Fire Company, $283, General Fund account 10120551-51130, overtime general fund. Gales Ferry Fire Company for volunteer resources, $3,340, General Fund account 10120551-51720, incentive. And Ledyard Fire Company for volunteer resources, $935, General Fund account 10120501-51720, incentive.
Second. I did that for my finance, so.
Certainly.
You did a good job, you did.
Yeah.
Any discussion?
Just briefly, this is a portion of the FEMA reimbursement. There is still about $74,000 of additional funds expected that include overtime and other general fund expenses. These are the specific allocations beyond that.
At our emergency operations meeting, we did discuss the importance of making sure we track every little item for reimbursement. I think Steve Maslin does really an excellent job.
He does do a
and we
very
should
good job.
commend him for that. I also wonder if People GIS wouldn't help in terms of forms in keeping track of expenses. Just a thought, but.
It's going to be a long IT meeting.
But anyway, again, I just wanted to commend. Roxanne, would you call the roll?
Sure. Mr. Soms?
Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Allen?
Yes.
Mrs. Davis?
Yes.
Mr. Dombrowski?
Yes.
Mr. Eichelberg?
Yes.
Mr. France?
Yes.
Mrs. McGrattan? Yes. 8 in favor, 0 opposed.
Motion carries. Item number 4.
Motion to adopt the proposed resolution regarding the establishment of an account for the revenues received from leasing the Gales Ferry landing, formerly known as former Gales Ferry School Property, Gales Ferry Facility, as contained in the updated draft dated June 19, 2013.
Second.
We're changing the name to Landing.
Okay. Which is a different motion than we passed at finance.
Well, the mayor's going to tell you.
It's a friendly amendment.
A friendly amendment, because we've already made the sign.
Doesn't sound friendly.
We already approved the zoning.
We sort of eliminated from the side the consent calendar.
Any discussion?
Discussion.
Well, I just think it's a great idea. I'm really.
I love the name.
Mr. France is speechless.
I have never seen that before.
Boy. I was so prepared for that. This resolution's been around since 2004. It was reviewed and updated in 2006.
And never followed.
Well, I wasn't gonna go there. My learned counsel here, yes,
Give him a chart.
recognizes Councilor Wadecki points out it was not followed, and it was also allowed for a situation where the town could end up paying for some of the costs of the facility, even though there was revenues there, because it only accounted for the revenue side of the facility. And so the Finance Committee felt that in addition to the budgeted revenues and coming in above that, you would also have to exceed the planned expenses. And so the resolution was updated to require not only exceeding revenues, but also exceeding the budget, the actual expenses. And we'd wait till the end of the fiscal year to know exactly what the expenses were for the year to have a solid number.
Well, in actuality, we used to just budget. We didn't budget revenue. We budgeted just what we thought it was going to cost us to pay for this, for the facility, and then we just offset it with the revenue that came in. So the original resolution would have worked had we followed it. But now we actually budget more money than we expend for it because we are actually making a little money on the building. And as the mayor pointed out, we're putting money into the budget that we're going to bring in X number of dollars, and if we follow the old resolution, then you'd be giving us some money that should have been expended. So it was a good compromise. And we're going to follow this one.
Any questions?
So do we need to have a friendly amendment?
Call it landing?
Yeah.
We already did that.
I read it as presented. It's just different than what was on the Finance Committee. Got it.
And this is an opportunity to improve the building, correct? With
It is.
the excess funds?
Well, the excess funds will go into a capital CNR, so as there are things needed to be done, hopefully there'll be funds, and, just to help keep the building looking good.
Very good. Any other questions?
Yeah. Does this sort of solidify that it's no longer for sale and that it will be used?
No?
No.
Oh, okay.
It's still for sale,
Okay.
but at this point in time, nobody's interested in buying it.
Yeah,
No.
if this, I don't even remember, there is a sign there.
There is.
That sign's coming down, it's going to be replaced. And again, it's for sale, if someone came along, we feel the building would be enhanced. For instance, one of the things that we're very close to coming to you with is the bringing gas to the building. We have the proposal put together, we need some money. There is some money that's already been allocated to the building, but this would also help. And that's going to make the building, besides more efficient, and save the town eventually significant money. I think it makes that building more attractive as a potential sale. So everything we do, we keep in mind the fact that that building could be sold at some point.
And all the leases for all the tenants indicate that in their leases.
Okay, I just hope when you changed the name, it sounded a little more permanent.
Well, it's been more permanent than we thought it was going to be, so I guess.
At least when I was hit by a CVS.
Anyway, any other discussion? Roxanne, would you call the roll?
Mrs. Wadecki?
Yes.
Mr. Allen?
Yes.
Mrs. Davis?
Yes.
Mr. Dombrowski?
Yes.
Mr. Eichelberg?
Yes.
Mr. France?
Yes.
Mrs. McGrattan? Yes. Mr. Soms?
Yes.
8 in favor, 0 opposed.
Motion carries. I think our discussion on the middle school project will qualify under discuss work sessions issues. We spent a little time there. I'd like this time to discuss summer meeting schedule. What we kind of like to have done, we've done in the past, is to not have a second meeting in July and August. Is that correct?
We've done it either way, so it's.
Cancel the first or cancel the second.
Yeah.
Does anybody have a preference?
I'll be away the 1st of January, and January. Yeah, no.
Tax season, tax season.
No, I know. I'll be away the first week in July, but that's, the first meeting in July, but that's not a reason. I don't know if anybody
I
else.
would recommend the second.
Yeah.
Unless somebody is.
I'll concur with the consensus, but I wonder with the number of projects that we have going, if we might consider not canceling.
We can always schedule if we have to.
I would rather plan on scheduling just a special meeting for those projects if we needed it.
Again, I'll concur with the consensus.
Anybody else have preferences?
Prefer the second in August.
Okay, which is exactly,
Yeah.
okay, so would somebody like to make that motion?
The motion to cancel the first meetings in July and August.
Second.
meeting.
The second,
Wait. To cancel the first. Oh, you said you would.
I would be
cancel
away the
second.
second.
No, I'm sorry, I thought you prefer to have it, I wasn't.
We don't know yet. Is anybody else going to be away this summer?
We're going to cancel the cancel.
Not that I know of.
Besides Rob Sanders who's waving over there. Yeah, but no, nobody else has plans because that just means I'm just one and you'll miss one. No, it's fine if we
Sure.
cancel the first.
That's fine. Okay. All right, so make a motion to cancel the first regular meeting in July and August.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? Roxanne, would you call the roll?
Yes.
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 Yes. Yes.
Motion carries.
Motion to adjourn. I motion to adjourn.
Motion to made and seconded. This meeting is adjourned without.
Objection.
Thank you.
Good girl.